Hey guys, today we're going to talk about the create performance task. Due to what's going on right now, the AP test for this year is only going to be your explore performance task and your create performance task. Everyone should have already finished the explore performance task. If you still need to work on it or need to clean it up, make sure you do that before everything is submitted to College Board. And remember, you have to have everything submitted normally by the end of April, but they've given you an extension until May 26th. So now for the instructions on the create. Here are the instructions. I will attach this file in the link so that you can see it. I will attach this file to the assignment so you can follow along if you'd like to. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but I will explain some of the points. So in this, you'll realize that once you've started, you are expected to complete it with minimal assistance from anyone other than your collaborative peers, which means I cannot help you finish your program, but you are allowed to have a partner for this. Now, if you do have a partner on your program will have to be a little bit more complex than a solo program so that you can each have your own parts of the program to finish all of your questions. We'll go over that here when we get to it in a minute. There are 3 things that you have to turn in to College Board for your create to be graded. The first is a video of your program running. Second is the individual written responses about your program and development process. This is where most of the points for the create come from. And then a copy of your program code. We'll go over the scoring guidelines here in a minute. So here you'll see that you need to write a program. The requirement is that it either needs to be a topic that interests you or one that solves a problem. It says that you are allowed to work together, and they even recommend working together. However, your program must involve a significant amount of independent work writing your program code. In particular, an algorithm and an abstraction has to be independently written to help you complete your written responses. We scroll down and we see the requirements. You have to independently develop an algorithm that integrates 2 or more algorithms, and that is fundamental for your program to achieve its intended purpose. So if you have a partner, y'all cannot submit the same thing. One person needs to write their own algorithm that implements 2 other algorithms, and the partner would need to do the same thing in a different part. This is why a partner program would have to be a little bit more complex than an independent program. You must have an abstraction that manages the complexity of your program. Think of this as a function or method. For example, in the example that I'm going to post later this week, our abstraction is going to be making a procedure that draws a shape based on the number of sides instead of rewriting code for a triangle, square, pentagon, etc. Then you'll need to create a video that displays the running of your program and demonstrates its functionality. You can use an online screen recorder to do this. If you are using a device that does not allow this, you can instead use a cell phone to record a video of the program running. A couple years ago, I had a student write a program with the BB-8 robots, and he took a video of that with his iPad, and that student had a qualifying score, so that's definitely an option for us to use. Then you have to write the responses to all of the questions, and then of course submit a copy of your code. Your program is required to use integrated math and logical concepts, so this is addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and modulus. Logic would be if, else, also using and, or, and not. Then you must also implement an algorithm that integrates 2 or more algorithms and integrates mathematical and or logical concepts. We'll show an example of that in our example later this week. And of course, the use of abstractions to manage the complexity of your program. We'll also show an example of that later this week. Submission requirements for your video. It needs to be some sort of video format, and it cannot exceed 1 minute in length or 30 megabytes in size. Then the written responses, you'll submit 1 PDF file that responds to all of the questions in order. We'll also do an example of this later in the week whenever we do our sample create. These are the written response questions. 2A, you need to write in a way that identifies the programming language, the purpose of the program, and explain what the video illustrates. 2B, you need to describe how you made the program. And important on that is the incremental and iterative development process. Whenever we go over how it's scored, we'll go over that more. You also need to have a difficulty and/or opportunity you encountered and how it was resolved. 2C, it shows that you need to mark with an oval in your program code where your algorithm is. Then you need to describe how each algorithm functions independently and how they combine to make the new algorithm. And your abstraction needs to be marked with a rectangle. And then the third thing you need to turn in is the program code. That also needs to be a PDF. The oval will mark your algorithm. The rectangle will mark your abstraction. And then you need to include comments where anyone else has written a piece of code in your program. So if you have a partner, y'all cannot turn in the exact same program code, because one person will say that I did this function for my algorithm, and then later on they will mark a part that said my partner did this part in a comment. And the partner, the program code they submit, those two things should be flip-flopped. So they cannot be exactly the same when you turn them in. And further on in the directions, they say, here's how you prepare for making the create task. And here are some of the guidelines. These are things you must do. You must be aware of the directions, which is what we're going over now. The timeline, it has been extended until May 26th. And the scoring criteria, which we'll go over here in a minute. You must apply the knowledge you've learned so far. You must provide acknowledgement for code used in your program that is not your own, so you use a comment for that. And of course, your own interest should drive your choice of program. Things you are allowed to do. You're allowed to seek clarification from me, the teacher, pertaining to the task. And you can also ask me questions about submission requirements. You're also allowed to ask about refining or defining your topic. If you have technical difficulties or being able to convert a file to the correct format to submit. If you need help setting up a peer-to-peer collaboration, like for example using a Google Meet so that you and your partner can work together online. Seek assistance from your teacher in resolving collaboration issues where one partner is clearly and directly impeding the completion of the task. If you choose to have a partner, make sure you choose someone who you trust to work on this with you. If there's not anyone you trust to work on this with you, I suggest working on the program alone. You can also seek guidance from your teacher about usage of APIs or other open source code in your program. Or if you need help providing acknowledgement of program code that you did not write yourself. These are the things you are not allowed to do. You are not allowed to collaborate on the video, so each person has to record their own video of the program running. It cannot be the same video. And you may not collaborate on any of the written responses. The written responses have to be done independently. You're not allowed to submit anything that has been revised, amended, or corrected by any other person, with the exception of if someone reminds you that you forgot to cite a piece of code that someone else worked on. You also may not submit work from a practice performance task. So later this week when we do a practice performance task, and I show you how to do the whole thing, you are not allowed to use that topic as your program for the create task. You also may not seek assistance or feedback on answers to prompts. So I cannot help you with your answer to a prompt. I can only help you with the direction.